There's this thing about the sea. It doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care how much you spent on your boat, how many followers you've got, or how many miles you've logged. Out there, the ocean has no ego, but it'll crush yours without blinking. I've seen it happen. To me, to friends, to folks who thought they had everything dialed in. And what's wild is, it's rarely some huge catastrophic failure that gets you. It's usually something simple, a choice, a gut check you ignore, a shortcut you talk yourself into. So today, I want to talk about 5 decisions that could kill you offshore. These aren't wild freak accidents. They're common, everyday choices that can turn deadly if you're not paying attention. I've made a couple of them myself, and I've been lucky, but luck's not a strategy at sea. Sailing offshore is often a game of timing, and nothing tests your judgment more than deciding when to leave. There's always pressure: weather windows, crew availability, marina schedules, visa deadlines. But pushing off when the forecast is shaky, that's one of the most dangerous decisions a sailor can make. Bad or uncertain weather doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just a series of mixed signals, models disagreeing, a front moving faster than expected, or a suspicious drop in barometric pressure. It might not scream storm, but that's exactly what makes it so risky. You convince yourself it's fine, that it'll blow through or miss you entirely. And sometimes it does. But when it doesn't, you're out there, exposed, with few options. Once offshore, you can't just tuck into a marina or drop anchor and wait it out. A surprise squall line, an unpredicted shift, or a strengthening low can turn a manageable passage into a survival exercise. Seas build faster than you expect. Equipment gets stressed. Crew fatigue sets in. And suddenly, you're not managing the trip. You're just trying to stay afloat. It's especially dangerous for short-handed crews or boats that aren't fully storm-ready. What might be a rough ride for a seasoned racing crew can become life-threatening for a cruising couple or solo sailor. The sea magnifies small mistakes, and bad weather makes those mistakes show up fast. One of the hardest parts is trusting the forecast, or knowing when not to. Modern tools are amazing, but they're still only models. If 2 or 3 models don't agree, that's not a reason to average it out and hope for the best. It's a reason to wait. If there's any time to be conservative, it's before you've even slipped the dock lines. A smarter sailor once said, "I'd rather be tied to the dock wishing I'd left than out at sea wishing I hadn't." That quote sticks because it's true. Once you're offshore, the stakes are higher, the consequences sharper, and there's no one to blame but yourself. Leaving in bad or uncertain weather isn't just a gamble, it's handing the house your chips and hoping they go easy on you. Don't do it. Wait for the window you trust, not the one that just barely works. Because when you're 200 miles out and the sky turns black, it won't matter why you left, only that you did. Every sailor hears the phrase, reef early. It's one of those golden rules passed down like gospel. But even with all the warnings, this simple decision trips people up time and time again. Because in the moment, when the breeze is just starting to build, the boat feels good, and you're making great time, it's really hard to make yourself slow down and shorten sail. The danger in not reefing early isn't always obvious at first. The boat still feels under control. You might even be enjoying the power and speed, but as the wind creeps up, the loads on your rig increase exponentially. That pressure doesn't just hit your sails, it strains the halyards, the winches, the autopilot, and most critically, the crew. Suddenly, everything's harder. Moving around the deck is more dangerous, lines are tighter, mistakes are more costly. Waiting too long to reef usually means you'll be doing it when conditions are already dicey. That's when accidents happen. Someone gets slammed against the mast. A line gets jammed. A sail tears. Or you just lose your nerve trying to wrestle canvas in big seas. It all spirals fast. Beyond the physical risk, there's the psychological toll. Sailing in control is one thing, feeling like you're barely hanging on is another. That kind of stress erodes decision-making, wears down your crew, and leads to a cascade of bad calls, all of it because you delayed a 15-minute job earlier in the day. There's also this trap. People wait for a sign to reef, like a gust that pushes the boat over or water coming over the rail. But by then, you've already waited too long. Reefing is about preventing those moments, not reacting to them. It's like wearing a seatbelt. You don't wait for the crash. And here's the truth. No one ever regrets reefing too soon. If the wind drops, you shake it out. No big deal, but if you wait too long and get caught, that moment can turn ugly real fast. You'll be out on deck, wet, tired, probably yelling, wondering why you didn't just reef back when it was calm and easy. Reefing early isn't about being scared. It's about being smart. It gives you margin. It gives you options. And offshore, options are life. So, when in doubt, pull it in. You can always let it back out later. The ocean rewards caution a lot more than it does bravado. Autopilots are one of the most useful tools on a modern sailboat. They give short-handed crews a break, allow for easier navigation, and reduce fatigue on long passages. But in rough conditions, placing too much trust in an autopilot can become a deadly mistake. The trouble starts with how well autopilots handle calm to moderate seas. When things are smooth, they steer beautifully, precise, efficient, and tireless. But that same trust can lead to complacency. The temptation to rely on them grows until, eventually, they're steering through conditions they weren't built to handle. In heavy weather, the sea becomes unpredictable. Waves hit from odd angles. Wind gusts shift directions. The motion of the boat changes rapidly and violently. And while a human helmsperson can anticipate, feel, and adapt in real time, an autopilot just reacts. It lacks instinct. It doesn't sense the rhythm of the swell or brace for a rogue set. When seas build beyond a certain point, autopilots often begin to hunt, overcorrecting, stalling, or failing altogether. That's when the real danger sets in. If the boat gets caught by a breaking wave or knocked broadside while under autopilot control, it can round up or broach. A broach in big seas isn't just dramatic. It can dismast the boat, damage the rudder, or injure crew. Worse still, if the autopilot keeps trying to steer through chaos instead of relinquishing control, it can make the situation worse with every correction. Another risk is losing the autopilot entirely. Power supply issues, software glitches, hydraulic or mechanical failures, these things don't give much warning. And when an autopilot dies in rough weather, it's often at the worst possible moment, leaving a tired crew scrambling to take over in gnarly conditions with no margin for error. The key problem is over-reliance. Autopilots are tools, not crew. They're best used when conditions are within a known safe range. As soon as wind and seas reach the kind of force that requires strategy and finesse, a human needs to be at the helm. A good helmsperson doesn't just keep a course, they anticipate and respond to motion before the boat gets into trouble. Using an autopilot smartly means knowing its limits and your boat's behavior in a seaway. If you're pushing into a squall, surfing down long-period swell, or navigating confused seas, the autopilot should be off, or, at the very least, watched closely. Being ready to grab the wheel or take over instantly can mean the difference between a wild ride and a full-blown emergency. Rough conditions call for human judgment. Autopilots can assist, but they should never be your only line of defense. In a storm, it's your hands, not the machines, that should be on the wheel. 4. Ignoring crew discomfort or illness offshore sailing demands a lot from the body and mind. Between motion, weather, limited sleep, and confined spaces, even experienced sailors can struggle. That's why ignoring crew discomfort or illness is such a dangerous mistake. It might seem like a minor issue at first, but small symptoms offshore can turn serious quickly. What makes this decision deadly is how often it's made passively. A crew member gets seasick, skips a meal, or seems withdrawn. Maybe someone's taking extra time below or moving slower on deck. It's easy to chalk it up to fatigue or assume they'll bounce back. But at sea, things don't usually get better on their own. They either stay the same or get worse. Seasickness, for example, is often dismissed as just part of the passage. But prolonged nausea can lead to dehydration, malnutrition, and fatigue. Once someone stops eating or drinking, their ability to function plummets. And in heavy weather or emergencies, every hand counts. An incapacitated crew member becomes a liability, not by any fault of their own, but because their condition was allowed to worsen. Beyond the physical risks, there's also the psychological toll. Anxiety, depression, or fear may not show up as clearly as vomiting or injury, but they can be just as debilitating. If someone's judgment is clouded by stress or panic, they might freeze when they're needed most, or make a decision that puts the crew at risk. Fatigue is another silent threat. On longer passages, a tired crew member might nod off during a watch, miss important weather cues, or struggle to stay upright in rough seas. These aren't dramatic failures, but they're often precursors to accidents. A misstep on a slippery deck, a missed squall on radar, these are the kind of small errors that stack up offshore. Ignoring discomfort also creates resentment. When someone feels unheard or brushed off, it damages trust. That kind of tension can unravel a crew's cohesion, which is vital in any high-stress environment. Open communication and checking in on each other isn't just kind, it's a safety practice. The solution is simple, but takes discipline. Treat every sign of discomfort seriously. Ask questions, offer water, food, rest, and backup on watches. Rotate duties if someone's struggling. Make it okay to speak up early, before things go downhill. No one wants to feel like the weak link. That's why discomfort is often hidden. But a good skipper or crewmate knows how to look past the tough face and check in anyway. Offshore, your life may depend on the person next to you. Keeping them well isn't just compassion, it's survival. One of the most quietly dangerous decisions sailors make is skipping pre-departure safety checks and drills. It doesn't feel like a big deal at the time, The weather looks good, the crew's eager, and everyone just wants to get moving. But the sea doesn't care how ready you feel, it cares how ready you are. Safety gear is only as useful as your familiarity with it. Jacklanes, tethers, life rafts, fire extinguishers, EPIRBs, flares, these aren't just for decoration. If you've never practiced clipping in, launching the raft, or finding the ditch bag in the dark, those tools won't help you much in a crisis. Skipping the basics, like checking life jackets for CO2 cartridges, testing the bilge pump, or reviewing how to kill the engine in an emergency, leaves too many things up to chance. And offshore, where help is hours or days away, that chance could be the one thing standing between life and death. Drills matter just as much. Knowing how to use the gear is one thing. But when it's dark, rough, and noisy, your body needs muscle memory. Do you know how to get someone back aboard if they fall over? Can you find the fire extinguisher from memory? Does everyone on board know the Mayday protocol and how to work the radio? It's not about paranoia, it's about being prepared when minutes count. Emergencies don't wait for calm seas and daylight. They show up when you're tired, off guard, and scrambling. The best way to fight that chaos is to have rehearsed your response ahead of time. Skipping these checks and drills is a choice, and it's one that puts your whole crew at risk. Offshore sailing doesn't leave much room for, "We'll figure it out later." By the time later comes, it's too late. Take the time before you untie the lines. Go through the motions, ask the dumb questions. Get everyone involved. Because out there, being ready isn't a luxury, it's the bare minimum. The sea is full of beauty, freedom, and unforgettable moments, but it's also unforgiving. Offshore, the margin for error is razor thin, and the decisions you make before and during a passage carry real weight. The 5 choices we talked about, leaving in bad weather, not reefing early, relying too much on autopilot, ignoring your crew's condition, and skipping safety checks, might seem small in the moment. But offshore, they can spiral fast, and sometimes there's no coming back. The truth is, most offshore emergencies don't start with some freak event. They start with a quiet decision, a missed sign, or a shortcut that didn't seem like a big deal. And the hard part? You usually don't realize you've made the wrong call until things are already going sideways. That's why caution isn't weakness. It's wisdom earned by sailors who've seen what can happen. Staying humble out there, checking your gear, listening to your gut, looking out for your crew, these things don't slow you down. They keep you going. They bring you home. So, if you're heading offshore, take a beat. Ask yourself the hard questions. Double-check what matters. And remember, every safe passage is built on good decisions, not just good luck. Fair winds, and stay safe out there.